Priorities have changed, yeah, an awful lot. Yeah, an awful lot. As is true.
Do you notice it?
Oh yeah, they would absolutely, yeah. Because there was things like I would, you know, I would sit back. I suppose I would get stressed or annoyed at things. Now I wouldn't. I say, why worry about that? It's not an issue. Come on, and it's not the end of the world in this sense and all that, and encouraging others obviously as well. I find that even with the family and all that, and seeing better things. And actually questioning things as well, going along in life and our relationships and with the family and all that. So,
had you ever days that you were low, David?
Oh, absolutely. There was days. You do go through days of that, and that was primarily, a lot of it was, I suppose, during the courses of the treatment, etc. Yeah, so you would be human if you didn't. I mean, that's the whole emotional, roller coaster that you go on. I went through, bad days. There was bad days in there, thinking of, as I was going through the treatments and expectations. A lot of bad days in there would have been looking around with other people that you're surrounded in the ward. I mean, when I went into the ward, and it's a real reality check in the sense of motivation that we all kept each other as much going as possible. We all chatted to each other. We all knew what we were in for. We had different diagnoses, but we were all in for the same reason, in getting better. And sadly, some close friends that I built over the 6 months that were there have passed away. I mean, I've 2 other close patients that I still talk to, and there's 12 that I don't. So I mean, you go through it, and you think of them every day. And that's why you just go and enjoy life as best you can, and because that's what they'd want as well, and we had laughs about it, and at different stages.
Did you ever think during your treatment that you wouldn't make it, or?
There was stages, not that I wouldn't make it, there were stages in the sense of the fact that the donor thing was one thing, that I didn't have that sort of safety net. Other people around me were matches, not matches. But I didn't think of it as the be-all, end-all. But I just thought, nice to have. But you just get on with it,
And did you need a transplant at the end of the 6 months? Is that how they?
No, thank God. Now I went through the 4 stages of the chemotherapy. The consultants were here. Dr. Gorman was in consultation with St. James's whether I would need a 5th one. The fact that I did not have immediate donor within the family. Those consultations went on between phase 3 of my treatment and phase 4. And then the decision was made then during phase 4 that no, with the progress and how I was in remission at that stage, that they decided that it was no need to go for a 5th one at that stage.
What was your treatment then like after you had done your 4 cycles?
After the 4 cycles, then I left after in the end of September 2009. After that, then I'd have to go into the clinics here in St. Vincent's Day ward, where I was going in as an outpatient. At that stage, I was getting my bloods done. I was getting bloods and platelets depending, because my levels were quite low when I left. My levels didn't go up as quick as normal people would, so I was into clinics twice, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was getting bloods in, so I was in for a half day, the afternoons.
And when did you return to work?
Return to work then? Return to work. It took over a year then. After that, work was very good with me, so it took a year after that from the point of view of work. And going back to them, they were fantastic. But over that year was obviously building up the strength, etc. out there, because again, my levels were still quite low.
And where is your life today, David? My
life today is brilliant, but glad to be here. My life today is still obviously with my partner Barbara. As I say, looking at enjoying life. My niece is my new adopted niece now, from China, Jenny. So it's great. Family are brilliant. Great support. I've gone through from the point of view with the bank. I've looked at my life holistically, and I said I need a change. Not any stresses within the work or whatever, but I need a change. So the way the banking sector is going at the moment, unfortunately, it's in a downturn. So my aspirations in going further afield than where I was there are not going to be there. I'm moving on to do my own project management stuff.
Wow.
And on top of that as well, what I got an interest in is photography as well. So I'm big into photography as well.
Okay.
So things are moving great for me.
You seem very happy.
Big time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very
big time.
obvious. And it seems like you've made real changes to your life.
Sure.
You spoke about stress a couple of times. I suppose, do you in some way attribute to lifestyle habits to your leukemia, or?
I don't know. It could have been it could have been a factor. Stress. I mean, there's different levels of stress and what people can cope with and what they can deal with.
Sure.
I mean, the way pressures and the way life is going at the moment, things are getting stressful, but it's how it's been managed. I never got to the stage, I suppose, within my career and the stress and all that I was, I wasn't so-called getting bad marks in my reviews every year, you know what I mean? Yes, you have to deal with stress, but I wouldn't say it was a big contributor in the case of getting my diagnosis.
Okay.
I mean, as the man says, what's for you won't pass you. So it's just something, goes back to that question of denial, or why me, why am I getting it? It's a matter of fact, you have it. How do you deal with it and best deal with it,
Sure.
Come out the other side.
And just one final question. When you look back at your time as an inpatient and as an outpatient, is there anything that worked from our perspective, from the professionals involved with you, that worked very well for you, or is there anything that could have been different for you from your experience of the hospital?
From the actual
The process,
doctors, the process?
Yeah, doctors or those that you met.
There wasn't an awful lot, really, to be honest with you. From I would change in the sense of the process and all that. It was more within the patients itself, I think, the way things are. I noticed that sitting back there, I was lucky one where I was put into a single room for a while, for a week, and then obviously back out on the ward again with other patients. Seeing everything holistically, a lot of it has got to do with the patients themselves. I mean, having to work with the staff. There was a few people that were, you may say, weren't the best patients in the world, I suppose. And it's a sort of thing where you both have to work in harmony together. Obviously the patients or doctors are doing the best for you, and there are times that your attitudes or your anger could go or whatever, and you have to, deal with it in that sense. And you see how people deal with it in the room, and frustrations. Family and visiting hours as well is one thing, as a thing as well, because obviously them trying to do your job. So it's basically you obviously having to police your own side of the family and how you deal with things, and they'll police obviously their side of it. Okay. But there isn't an awful lot now that I would change in the sense of how it gone on. I certainly found being a patient here that definitely mixing with other patients was a huge benefit. Definitely. I mean, me personally, I couldn't understand sitting in. Obviously, I'm a Plan B with the VHI. I could have gone into a single bedroom myself, and I just can't understand in the sense of you need to be around other people. You need to share experiences with them, and stories, and obviously to build rapport and develop with the other patients and spur them on. Because there was plenty of times I needed lifting and we had laughs. I mean, if you were to think of turn around with two of the other patients that I knew well and in the cubicles, and they weren't feeling great, and I was sitting during phase 3 of my treatment, and I had the laptop and I was looking at a video, and the boys were hearing me laugh, and they were saying to me, "What are you laughing at?" And I said, "Oh, it's just the video I'm watching here." And they said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "The bucket list." And they said, "What?" I said, "The bucket list." And they said, "What's that about?" And I explained to them it was about Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson, the two of them with cancer, and they had 10 wish list things that they wanted to do before they died. So they start bursting up laughing and saying, "God, you're sick." Having a laugh. But I said, I turn around looking at them, but having that laugh and all that, and actually sitting back in ways, as I say, been a rebirth on the 24th of September 2009 for me, and looking how life is and all that, there's very few when you see other families and all that. I look at it at a different angle or thinking outside the box, that I was actually told of my condition and what I have. I was told that, you know, it is life and death, etc. And at least I know, even going through my bloods and my checks that I have to get done, that, you know, I've been told, so-called, my faith and all that sort of thing. So I've been given ample warning, as in if that time comes, and the same the other people that were told in there. And you know, looking at other people don't. You could be hit by a bus in the morning and you go other ways. At least I know I have that time and I have everything around. If you know, if it's there.
You've used that time and you continue to use the time wisely.
Sure.
So I suppose that's the difference perhaps to others as well. Some may know or may have had an event but don't, I suppose, bring changes into their life, the changes that it seems that you have, I suppose, nurtured and relished and perhaps is why you're as happy as you are today.
Yeah, I mean, you get on as well. I mean, another thing that it was great for me in the sense of going through the treatment as well as the phases, have goals for yourself in the sense of when you come out of hospital, maybe what are you going to do with family or friends for those few days that you have out. So you can build yourself up and psychologically. Now, don't put a timeline, as I was saying, but have those goals. I and Barbara and myself were sitting down looking at books for the kitchens and the bathrooms during phase 2 and 3 of my treatment, because that was something at the end of my goal, was that when I got out of hospital, that's what was going to be my phase. It was my sort of little mini project to keep me going over that particular, which would lead me up to Christmas. So we were picking handles, looking at doors and everything. So it was something as in a project itself, and then seeing the fruitions of it when I was finished, and great, and enjoying it and appreciating it and remembering back, you know. So it's always something to have as well.
David, thank you so much for taking part. Is there anything that I have left out or I haven't asked you that you feel maybe a benefit?
I don't think so, no. I don't think so. Just that the only thing I would just say is just everyone just to fight it, you know. You can do it and just think positive.
Okay.
Just stay at it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
Cheers.
Thank you.
David.
You're welcome.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it's fine, thanks.
Well done, that was great.
Thank you.
Very helpful now. Lots of stuff there. How is your niece actually? Remember that?
Right.
Sorry, I was beaming there thinking about the niece from China.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's great. She's
Jenny,
great.
you
She was
said.
actually, she had her
Dara, thank
How
you
you
so
doing?
much for agreeing to take part in this video diary.
You're welcome.
So Dara, maybe we will start at, you were diagnosed in 2007?
Yeah.
Maybe tell me a little bit about your life before you were diagnosed.
Well, in 2007, I was 26 years of age. I just recently moved out of home in with one of my friends. I was 2 years out of college, on the path to becoming a chartered accountant. I'd done 3 years worth of exams. I was on the road to do my finals, and then just around the Christmas time in 2007 or 2006, coming into the new year 2007, just began to feel unwell. Wasn't sure quite what was wrong with me, and then over the next couple of months I just kind of deteriorated gradually, and I thought life was going fine, but I just felt that there was definitely something up. And
So what type of symptoms were you having?
initially, I remember going in the January to a gym class with a few friends, and just feeling really drained, and then afterwards noticed that there was a lump in my groin and thought maybe it might be just a strained muscle related to the gym class. Then a couple of months later, this began to progressively get bigger. I was very, very drained and very tired, and then I began to have night sweats, which is where I woke up in the middle of the night and my bed was literally drowned. I was wringing wet, and it's like I just dropped out of the shower and lay on the bed, and I had them every maybe 2 or 3 days over a period of 2 to 3 weeks. I was heavily just bunged up, and I really just couldn't pass food.
Were you telling anyone about it, Dara?
At the time, I'd kind of spoken to a doctor, maybe not say it was January. I was diagnosed towards the end of February. In mid-February, I went to see my local GP, and unfortunately she didn't pick up on the symptoms, or just between me not giving the right information, her not picking up linking everything together, it wasn't apparent. But she did say to me, if you feel any more unwell, to go to A&E, which I did 2 weeks later, and literally immediately it was picked up.
Okay. And retrospectively, when you look back at that time, is there anything you'd do differently?
I'd be a bit more questioning, particularly in the January and after the gym class, and that not just after a gym class that you had a lump and you felt really drained over a period of weeks, that you'd question it a bit more, in the sense that you'd say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling unwell, there's a lump in my groin, maybe just associate the lump with something bigger than just being in a gym class. So I just didn't make that connection, and hindsight's a great thing, and I would make that connection now, but at the time, maybe even though cancer was something that never crossed my mind. Like, it's just something that I was quite ignorant to, or didn't really understand, so we just kind of like put that to one side.
Okay. So it seems like you had a very full life, a very active life, and really moving out of home in your bodies, so on the beginning of a new adventure in many ways. So you presented to A&E and you said they picked up on it straight away. Who did you meet, or tell me about that?
Well, I went into Blanchardstown, and I met a surgical doctor, and then the next morning the head of his team, who was a consultant, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, sure.
My mother worked with him quite closely.
Your mum works in
Blanchardstown? Yeah.
Okay,
she's a nurse there.
Okay.
And he immediately, once he took a look at me, and he ran some very quick tests without taking my bloods, or without looking, just by physically examining me. He was able to tell straight away that I was very ill, and he knew what was wrong with me. And he just said to me, "You're very, very ill, but you're in great hands. We've got someone that's a specialist in this area," which was great help.
And when he said that you're very, very ill, did he give you a warning shot as to what it might be?
No, I don't think he was in a position to, because it wasn't his speciality.
Okay.
But he knew the symptoms that I presented were very similar to any of the symptoms that you'd expect with someone who had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay.
So he assigned me to another consultant, and then his team, kind of over a period of about 5 days, took me from doing a biopsy on my groin, removing the tumour, doing a number of tests, and all during that period I I was all the time, I hadn't kind of really accepted that this could be cancer. I focused in on the idea that they told me there's 5 different types. This could be, you know, it could be viral, it could be, you know, it could be I don't know, they gave me 5 different things, and all of them, and the last one I said was cancer. And several of my friends came in to visit me during that period, and they all thought I was quite well just by the way I was talking to them, but I was extremely unwell and hadn't accepted that that's what it was, that it was cancer, or because it hadn't been confirmed, and my ignorance of it probably.
Okay. And what do you think, looking back now again, I suppose, what was it about you and having cancer at 26 that was difficult to digest, or what was that about?
One, I didn't understand it. I think that was the biggest thing. I really didn't know what it was or what it was about. No one else in my family had presented. None of my friends had presented. I'd heard of people, but they weren't close friends. And I was just kind of unaware or unsympathetic to cancer. Just didn't really understand it. So when that happened, I suppose, and it took me, before I really got to grips with it, was when I came to the Mater, I went to the oncology unit. That was when people sat me down, and they were specialists. The head nurse at the time took me aside and tried to explain my treatment, and that I was coming around to the idea then, even having met with the consultant and being very impressed by who he was. He couldn't connect with me on a personal level. And it wasn't until there was I can't remember his name, but there was a male staff nurse on the ward at the time, and he'd only been there shortly, and he'd worked on oncology units in the Philippines, and he sat me down at the side of my bed and kind of said, like, listen, you have to accept what's happening with you now and understand what you're going through. And then I kind of opened up. I started talking to the guys beside me, because albeit they didn't have the same thing was wrong with them, I spoke to them all about what was wrong with them. There was a guy beside me, Damien, he had a tumor in his nose. A guy across me, Porrick, who had lung cancer. A guy in the corner who had lymphoma from Mead. There was another guy in the opposite. There was 6 beds. In the opposite bed then there was a guy who had another form of lymphoma, but he'd spent a year in hospital. His treatment was complicated, and there was a guy right beside me who was very critical. And it wasn't until I spoke to all of them and realised, I actually put myself in a position where I said, I'm 26 years of age. I looked around the room, everyone was older than me, and everyone appeared to be way more ill than I was. And that's how maybe that wasn't the case, but that's how I interpreted it.
Okay.
And that's what I felt when it really, between that conversation I had with the staff nurse and looking around and talking to these people, I really began to understand what was happening. And then while I was talking to them, they were getting their chemo, you know, and I was looking at them, and you know, people have different ways of reacting to things, and they deal with it differently. You know, they talk about their medicines. Some people are very technical, and some people are just kind of like, oh, I'm getting my medicine now, and so they just deal with it in their own way. And that's what I felt was a great help, having 5 different personalities, and some of them were open and some of them weren't, but just to understand what was wrong with them made me understand what was wrong with me.
And how would they describe you in the room, do you think?
I think maybe I definitely wasn't aware of this, but I'd say they looked at me, particularly the older guys there was 2 guys in the room one of them definitely was the same age as my father, and my father's in his 50s, and I'd say for him it was like a shock, because he's looking at someone that's half his age that is very, very ill. And probably initially they probably sensed that I was very apprehensive and didn't really understand, but I came out of myself in that period.
And when were you actually told that you had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
I was told